everyone, and welcome back to our kitchen. As you probably can tell by the name of this video and what I have right here, we're talking about essential kitchen appliances. And I think these would be really useful for anybody who is starting out in the vegan lifestyle or just wants to include more plant-based meals. These three in particular are the appliances that I use the most often, and I think they give so much versatility to plant-based meals in general. And I just want to start out by saying that these are all my opinions. These are essential for my family, and as you probably know, we have a toddler and we cook most of our meals from scratch every day, and we eat mostly vegan and gluten-free. No, we eat all vegan and mostly gluten-free. As you can see, our countertops are relatively empty and we love it this way. It makes things a lot easier for food prep and just makes the space a lot more clean and inviting. So let's start out with the high-speed blender. I think this is the number one priority for anybody doing a lot of vegan cooking. And to me, there is no competition between the top two brands, which are the Vitamix and the Blendtec. I know people who have both and they absolutely love them. You can't go wrong with one of those blenders. I believe they start out around $250, so definitely not cheap, but they're totally worth your investment. High-speed blenders are used for liquefying things, so that's going to be things like smoothies and soups and sauces. I can also use this little jar for grinding seeds and nuts and like oats into flour. So it's really versatile. I'll link one of my favorite recipes below, the cashew cheese recipe that I really like. I chose to go with the Blendtec about 7 years ago when I bought it because I was living in a small apartment in Seattle and it was going to live on my countertop and I needed it to fit under the cabinets. And this was the shorter blender that was available between those two. Last year I had issues with the jar and Blendtec replaced it for me for free, which is awesome. So I'm really happy with the Blendtec. Second is the food processor, and these two are not the same. Whereas the blender makes everything really smooth and creamy, the food processor is mostly used for things where you want some texture. So these are going to be things like lentil burgers, and I'll link a recipe below. Energy balls, pesto sauce, and things like that where you want some chunks. You don't want everything so consistent. I bought this probably as one of the very first kitchen things when I moved out on my own, and so that's why it's relatively small. I've thought about upgrading to a bigger size since then, but I really like how it stores easily in the cabinets, so I'm just gonna stick with this size and it's working great for now. So when I need to make a lot more of something, I just do it in double batches and that works great. I love this other attachment that's available to shred food. Usually when I have this out, I'll definitely shred some carrots or beets to have on hand, just so long as I'm cleaning this. But otherwise, I mostly use the S-Blade. And finally, the Instant Pot. It's a relatively new addition for me. I've had it for close to 3 years now, and it replaced a couple other pots and appliances, and I absolutely love the Instant Pot and highly recommend it to everybody. It makes one-pot meals really easy because you can saute onion and garlic and shredded carrots beforehand and then put all your ingredients on top and seal it with pressure and cook everything really quickly. I also use it to cook grains like buckwheat and rice, as you saw in the previous video about sushi. And it's really nice because then I can pour the exact amount of water I need so there's no excess afterwards. I think these three appliances make my life a lot easier. They make food prep more pleasant, and we're able to do varied meals between these 3 appliances. There are a few others that I use pretty much daily, unlike these, and they live on the countertop right over here. The first one is an electric kettle. Probably every Russian person has this in their house. It makes tea and coffee just a lot faster, and we love having hot water on hand. The next is a Burr coffee grinder, and it just brings me a lot of joy. I love having fresh coffee in the morning, and even though I don't really grind my coffee beans in the mornings anymore because I don't want to wake anybody up, I grind them the night before and still get plenty of use out of it, and I love it. And finally, a simple toaster. I've had one on and off in my adult life. I didn't find it to be essential until recently. I make a lot of pancakes and vegan French toast in double or triple batches and freeze the extra, and the toaster makes it really easy to heat those up and keep them kind of crispy. So that's something we use pretty frequently. And finally, I'll just mention the microwave behind me. I've lived without one before, and it's totally fine. I think you can easily get by without it, but the convenience is hard to beat. We pretty much use it every single day to reheat a meal or warm something up. So that's it for my favorite kitchen appliances. I want to leave you with a couple points for you to consider before going out and buying maybe these exact ones or other ones that you like. And the first one is to consider the space that you have in the kitchen. So I like to make sure that if I'm not using an appliance every single day, there is room for it in the cabinets somewhere. So that might determine the size you select of a particular appliance. Also, consider the price point. To me, it's worth it to save and hold off until you can buy the exact brand and size that you want, rather than buying something lower quality because you're bound to replace that later. Another thing to consider is that many of these are sold refurbished online, and I think that's a great option if you find that. And the most important point to consider is, what do you like to cook and eat consistently? If smoothies and soups just aren't your thing, then perhaps a high-speed blender, shockingly to me, but maybe to you, it's just not a necessity. And that makes a lot of sense. For me, I use the blender a lot in the summer. I use this a lot in the winter. So even depending on the seasons, my needs and desires vary. And yours will too, depending on the types of food you like to prepare and the meals that you're generally cooking. And if you're wondering where my juicer is, stay tuned for the next video where I talk about all the appliances that I got rid of and tell you why. I hope this was useful to you. I'd love to hear what you consider to be essential kitchen appliances. Leave it in the comments below, and please hit the like and subscribe buttons. That really helps me out as I'm starting out my YouTube channel. Thank you guys, and see you next time.